If you're not following Anna yet on LinkedIn, please do so because she's sharing amazing content. And I'm very honored to welcome Anna on stage. Please give it up for Anna.
Thank you so much. I feel like you just stole my first slide. So I'm sure everyone's really ready for lunch. So I'll make it super interesting, and then you'll be off and have some great food. So Adrian already presented me and who I am, so it's such a pleasure to meet all of you. I'm Anna Bertoldini, and yes, these are my specializations: brand strategy, employer branding, marketing communication, and content management and development. And I'll talk a little bit about how I get into storytelling myself, because authenticity and storytelling are really near and dear to me because of my own past experiences. So I was born and raised in Venice, Italy, and my mom is American from Buffalo, New York. That's why I speak like this. I was raised most of my life in Venice, but I was never completely either Italian or American. A little bit of both, but not completely either. And so growing up, I tried desperately to fit in with all the other kids around me. In Italy, I was always a little bit different. My mom gave me American snacks, and I dressed a little bit differently. And in the United States, it kind of was the same. I had a bit of an accent speaking English, and I just acted differently and watched different cartoons as well. So I tried to be inauthentically someone that I wasn't, not super genuine, just to fit in and be like everyone else. And I wasn't fostering many connections that way, because people would probably perceive that I wasn't being truly myself, and so wasn't fostering so much empathy. So eventually I changed strategy. I built my own narrative and I found my own unique voice by taking the bits and pieces of both cultures who made me who I was the most. And I built my own story, and I told that a lot more confidently. And I found that by being more authentic and telling my story, I was fostering a lot more connections and empathy in people, and made a lot more friends that way. So by finding my unique voice, I feel like I found a job that I love as well, which is to help companies find their unique voice too, and communicate it to the world authentically. Which brings me to what I do today. So I've been in this function for a while now, but I'm the Global Head of Employer Branding at Nielsen IQ. I lead our global employer branding and recruitment marketing efforts globally. And essentially what Nielsen IQ is, we are the largest global consumer intelligence firm. We were founded in 1923. So yes, it's 100 years this year. A lot of time, a century-old company, but with a lot of innovation happening. Our founder, actually, Arthur C. Nielsen, was one of the founders of market research and invented the breakthrough concept of market share to determine how well a brand was selling compared to its competitors. But fast forward to who we are today, and we keep investing in our people, our data, and our technology to keep delivering the most complete and trusted view of consumers and markets in 100+ countries, covering over 90% of the world's population. We're about 40,000 employees now, considering our integration with GfK, another company, which happened this year, and we are present in over 100+ countries where we have operations. And what we do is we aim to deliver the full view. We aim to show the world what people want by finding out what is happening, so what are consumers doing and what are they buying, how are they feeling, and essentially what to do about it. And then we deliver all that data as insights and analytics for emerging brands, but also big global brands like Unilever, Coca-Cola, to really make key business decisions that transform their businesses in the long run. So that's Nielsen IQ. I'm going to move on to the main part of the presentation, which you're all super interested in. All marketing is human to human, and we're craving more human experiences than ever. With the rise of automation, AI, we've seen many tracks, and even in this conference about artificial intelligence and automation, a lot of us are losing the human touch, especially in recruitment. And so people are craving that more than ever. Which brings me to a question I want to ask the audience. Who here wakes up in the morning, has their first sip of coffee, and thinks, I'm the end user of this coffee? Probably no one, unless, I don't know, maybe you think that, but probably most of you don't. And that's because before being candidates, consumers, shareholders, stakeholders, we are humans first. The business world groups us up into these categories, but we're humans before being anything else. And we're complex and unique beings that have values and needs that drive our behavior. And we're also messy and inconsistent and greatly emotional. And we often think with our hearts over our heads, especially when it comes with our work and employment. And according to this LinkedIn stat, I think it's from 2022, over 70% of the global workforce is passive talent, whereas 30% of that is actively seeking jobs. That means there's a whole talent pool out there of people who are not interested in working for you yet, with whom you have to build a connection now. So it all boils down to the question, what's going to make that person want to click apply? And marketing and branding is always human to human. No matter if you do B2C or B2B marketing, all organizations are made up of humans, so you're always marketing to humans. And especially in employer branding, we're selling a long-term relationship. And as many of you may know, as in all long-term relationships, you need to take into account a person's unique values, needs, and aspirations, and make sure that your promise matches their experience. And so essentially the question boils down to, how can you make a candidate aware and believe in your promise in the long run? And that's where your secret ingredient comes in, stories. By creating and sharing unique moments and experiences with your employees, those will permeate on the outside as well and will position your company as a top employer. Which brings me to the power of human storytelling. Storytelling is the most powerful way of communicating ideas out there. People can read and understand facts and figures, but people truly connect to stories. We are hardwired to process stories. They really spark emotion in us and inspire action, much more than facts and figures. And it can leave a powerful impression on the human mind. And especially nowadays, candidates want to know what it's like to work for you before they even click apply, not to mention join your company. And so how can you give them that peek from the outside? And the candidate journey can look different for everyone, right? So you may already know a company, you've heard about it, you're aware of what they do, you're interested in them, so you may visit their career site and apply directly for a position. Or you vaguely know of a company, maybe you've heard about a company from a friend. You see a position on LinkedIn, you visit their profile, you may visit Glassdoor to check out a bit about their reviews, and then you may apply. Or you can go through a variety of different touch points. You may speak to a friend about a company, you may visit a job site, you may, if you're in China, you look at WeChat. Indeed, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. You go through a variety of different touch points before you get to that application phase. So you need to make sure you're humanizing and optimizing each of those touch points before they get to that apply phase. Because infusing that storytelling and emotion throughout will make it a more successful and positive candidate journey and experience. And if you think about it, most of the candidate experience is driven by emotion. The candidate journey is driven by emotion. Think about yourself. If you see a recruitment marketing ad and you decide to click on it because you liked the picture, you liked the text that you saw, that's gut feeling. If you browse through the career site of a company and you like the content that you see, you like what they're posting, you like what they're sharing, you like the benefits that they provide, and you decide to apply for a position, that's gut feeling. And if you go through an interview process where you speak to a recruiter and you speak to the hiring team and you get that warm and fuzzy feeling with everyone, that is also gut feeling that pushes you to accept that job offer. It's not logical. It is because you feel good. You got a good impression from them. You liked what you heard and you liked the people that you spoke to. So essentially, a lot of this is driven by emotion. And that's something to really take into account when providing a great candidate experience. Everyone needs to be aligned. Gut feeling really drives it all. And stories can help you foster that emotion. Which brings me to employee advocacy, of course, because who can best tell your story? Your people. Your people are the ones who live and breathe your culture every single day. They add a very thick layer of credibility to all of your messaging. And employee advocacy is based on the principle that people listen to people. People really trust people. That's why Bill Gates has a lot more followers than Microsoft does, his own company, on social media. And that's why Elon Musk has a lot more followers than Tesla or X. Because people don't buy from brands or join brands. They join human teams. They buy from people. That is ultimately what this is about. So leadership advocacy and employee advocacy can really help bridge the gap between the candidate and the company by putting a face to your organization. And it can really help bring your brand to life. And two important concepts to me in employee advocacy are relatability and representation. So for people to be able to see themselves within your company, they need to be able to relate to the person they're seeing speaking and the messaging that's being displayed in front of them. So you need people to relate to your message. And that's on the outside. Inside, if people feel happy, satisfied, a sense of inclusion and belonging, and are empowered to advocate for your brand, they're going to do so, and more voices will be heard and represented on the outside. And so more people on the outside will be able to relate to those people and see themselves working with them, ultimately. So instead of selling, I know we love memes in these groups. I've seen a lot of, we're meme people. So instead of selling your brand, empower the ones who champion your brand. It's going to be a much more successful and also cheaper strategy going forward. Whether you work in employer branding or talent acquisition, this is the way to go, because employee advocacy adds authenticity, credibility, and honestly, it can reinforce your narrative so much more. So how to humanize your brand by going internal first? The first step is to find your EVP, your employee value proposition, I've heard both, which is the North Star that guides how you engage with candidates and employees alike. It answers the question, why should someone do this job here as opposed to anywhere else? And it's what makes working for your company truly unique. Your EVP should serve three purposes: attract and retain top talent, of course, inspire customer loyalty, and deliver shareholder value. And if you don't have an EVP already, it's a good idea to develop one because it's going to add focus to your messaging. And if everyone's aligned on your EVP, everyone is telling that same story in different ways, but they're telling that same story. So you can work with an agency, or you can work in-house with employees and leadership and develop one. Or if you already have one, make sure it's updated with your latest workplace culture reality, because obviously reality matters. You want to make sure it's updating because cultures are dynamic, just like companies are. And then the second step is to get employees involved. In order to go forward with any external rollout, you want to make sure that you get that internal buy-in first. So you can run focus groups, present your EVP to different employee groups. You can have a survey, you can have workshops, but gather feedback on your EVP and tweak as necessary based on the feedback that you're getting from your people. Use people from different departments, spread across different markets if you're a global company. Make sure you're getting a lot of differentiated feedback and that it essentially reflects the reality of what it's like to work for you. Because that's what the EVP is about. It's supposed to strike that balance between aspirational and grounded. The aspirational part is that it reflects your brand mission, whereas the grounded part is that it should reflect the reality of what it's like to work for you. And after all, great employer branding starts from within, so this is a really key step. And then deploy internally. My approach to this is to have everyone aligned on your EVP. So train your different internal teams, your D&I team, culture team, talent management, HR in general, brand, creative, internal comms, get everyone aligned on your new EVP, provide brand guidelines so that everyone's consistent in your messaging, and map out all of your internal communications and platforms onto which you speak about your company as an employer, and infuse your EVP throughout. This is going to add consistency and make sure that you're hitting upon all of those pillars of your EVP narrative throughout all of your channels internally. And of course, it's going to get everyone really, really enthusiastic about your message internally first. And I can't stress enough, mutually beneficial relationships with internal teams are key. So build that internal network with your teams because ultimately they're going to help you roll these types of projects out. Now, our approach to NAQ. I joined the company in January 2022, so almost 2 years, when the EVP that we created from scratch, we did not have one before, was locked and loaded, almost finalized and ready to go. And my mission was to roll it out. So we had developed a global EVP messaging working with an agency. We worked with leadership and employees. We tested it internally to make sure it resonated with our internal audiences first, and we piloted some campaigns internally as well. And then step 2 was to test it externally too. So we ran some targeted paid hiring campaigns externally to make sure the candidates were engaging with the content and that it was doing really well. And we also rolled it out with talent acquisition. So we ran some workshops to deep dive on the EVP messaging and how to articulate how to sell NIQ as a company. And so then after getting great feedback from the interviews that our recruiters were conducting, but also great engagement on our social media posts and click-through rates, we proceeded with step 3, which was activation. So we have a global EVP made up of a tagline, a manifesto, and 4 pillars made that are the culture, the work, the why, and the company. So they all relate to different candidate motivations for why someone should join our team. And that's our global EVP. And that is meant to give direction to people on how to speak about the company, but it's not meant to dictate conversations, because we want everyone to have a flexible approach to our EVP and allow our recruiters, our hiring managers, and employee to contextualize our EVP according to the market and the candidate that they're speaking to. So we developed organic campaigns. We infused our EVP into our hiring manager training. We have continuous workshops and an EVP certification to make sure that everyone can articulate the EVP internally, and that permeates externally as well. And of course, they have the freedom to localize. That is something that's super, super key and has been working really well. And as new needs arise, we add more things to our toolkit, because what works in one market may not work in another market. And this is our EVP video, which I'm super proud of, and I want to show it to you, and I hope you like it. So an interesting story about that video is that it was meant to be internal at first. You see our people, but I thought, why not share this externally? It works really well and says a lot about our culture. And what you see in that video is mainly stock footage, because it was one of the first videos that we created as we were building our employer brand and our EVP. But I think it really represents who we are as a company and what we stand for. When we rolled out externally, the first step that we took was to create a careers hashtag, right? So Life at NIQ in our case. And then the second step was to start building, and it's the third point here, but start building a content library with videos, pictures of our employees telling their story from their own unique perspective, not scripted at all. I'll show you an example in a couple slides. And the idea was to really have a content library that we could easily activate for an evergreen Life at NIQ campaign. So we started gathering these. And at the same time, we selected brand champions together with our social media team and our brand team. We call them social influencers and brand champions, who have slightly different roles, but we essentially educate them on the power of personal branding as a win-win situation. We provide content, training, resources for our employees to better up their personal brands. And that, of course, afterwards would benefit us as a company, but that's not the main purpose of that. And we also provide guidelines on how to speak of us on social media. And this is a small tip. Something that I've seen throughout my career is that employees have a harder time speaking up about a company because they're afraid of saying something wrong. Even if you do say, yeah, complete freedom. But if you do provide some guidelines, it's not meant to restrict them, but actually make them feel confident that it's okay. Maybe you don't say these things, but you can absolutely say these other things and you're going to be completely fine. You're not going to get in trouble for it. That's something that I've noticed a lot, and so we've catered to that too. And the final part is that we share a mix of employee-generated content, so shaky iPhone videos, love those, and company-generated content, where we take pictures and videos from our different offices, and we show the relatable side of working for us, both from home and from the office. And my tip for great human content is, of course, to show the real stuff, the jokes, the traditions, the successes, the failures, what makes working for your company truly unique. And in employer branding at Nielsen IQ, we cater to 4 key experiences: the candidate experience, the employee experience, the recruiter experience, and the hiring manager experience. And by catering to the final 3, we know that they're going to provide a great experience to our first group. And so we continuously roll out our EVP internally now. The big focus is internal, and really turning it outside in, making sure that we have training, our certification ready, updated workshops, and that everyone is enthusiastic and updated on how to speak about us as an employer and are encouraged to do so more and more. Obviously, we're 40,000 employees, so it's taking a while, but it's something that we've really been working on a lot to get people excited about working for us, and also spreading the word about our development opportunities and growth opportunities so people feel that on the inside. And then we're watching it really permeate on the outside. So we're really scaling Life at NIQ. And I want to show you one video from our Life at NIQ campaign. This is Jordan Moore. She's one of our associate client directors based in the US. I promise.
Hi, my name is Jordan Moore, and I have been with NIQ for almost 5 years. It is crazy to say that it's almost been 5 years because that time has absolutely flown by. I am now an associate client director with a rockstar team of 3 whose primary goal is to help emerging beverage brands grow. Our brands come to us with a lot of questions, and what our team does is listen to these needs and figures out the best way that NIQ can help our clients and achieve those goals. One of my favorite things about working at NIQ is all of the opportunity there is. I have had countless mentors, coaches, and friends who have helped me develop and figure out what the right career path is for me. It always feels like my biggest competition is who I was yesterday. It's never the person sitting next to me. NIQ is really big on winning as one. And that's true with our clients, who we work with complete transparency and are always trying to partner to reach each other's goals. But it's also true as a sales culture. We're trying to win as a team, not as just an individual. Your teammates there to help you and support you. They're not competition, which is very unique to a sales culture. I couldn't recommend joining the NIQ team enough, and again, wouldn't change any of it.
Thank you so much. So I'm happy that worked out. This is what I think is authenticity to me. This is like taking with an iPhone. She was not scripted at all. She was just asking, hey, like, what should I say more or less? And just talk about your experience, talk about what's unique about NIQ, and then this is kind of what came out of it. And it's so fun to see how all of these employee videos all say the same thing, which means that our culture is super strong. And yeah, and also I love that part of our sales culture is a high priority role, and it is now too. So yeah. My 3 takeaways from this journey, working in employer branding so far, whether you do work in employer branding or you're looking to work in employer branding or you're doing it part-time, is 3 things. The first thing I really want to focus on is to build that internal network internally. So focus on supporting other teams, working cross-functionally, and really make sure that you're building those mutually beneficial relationships, because a lot of my projects that I rolled out the past few years could not have been possible with other teams internally that helped me do so. And that's a big part of working in employer branding, is just relying on other people, because there's a lot of chasing as well. So having those networks is going to be absolutely key. And then focus on activating and strengthening your EVP internally. So focus on activating it outside in, because all of that magic will permeate externally as well. So by upskilling your teams, you're also going to be able to showcase your EVP externally, because they're going to do the work for you in the end, and they're going to be happy to do it and advocate for you. And finally, and I mentioned this during the EVP rollout, have a global EVP approach, but also a localized approach, where you give flexibility for people to express your EVP in their own words, whether they're recruiters or employees or hiring managers. Allow people to share your EVP in their own unique story and experience at each touch point of your candidate journey, at each interaction with candidates, because it's going to be absolutely key in helping your EVP resonate with more people. The more diluted it is, the less impactful it will be. So contextualize it, and it'll be successful. Thank you.